Okay, so all we're doing today is practicing. Oh my God, forget that. Okay, is we're just going to practice today, which you guys already know how to do, writing those arithmetic and geometric sequence formulas. You'll see that the first two parts of the table are done for you. All you're doing for the first bit of this is helping us review. Okay, the first part of the table is pretty self-explanatory. It's something that I know you know how to do because you guys had a really good quiz grades that show me you know how to do it. Okay, identify the sequence as arithmetic or geometric, and then tell me the common difference or the common ratio, depending on whether it's a arithmetic or geometric sequence. Remember, difference is the one that you add over and over and over again, and ratio is the one that you multiply over and over and over again. So you're going to do that first part, just fill in the table. Now I'm going to do one of each to remind you underneath here how you find the explicit formula for a sequence. I want to make sure that you remember how to do that. The first one, take a moment, get it in your head, write it on a board, something, because I'm going to ask somebody. I don't know who it's going to be, but number one, in order to write the explicit formula, you got to know whether it's arithmetic or whether it's geometric. So we got to decide, are we adding the same number over and over and over again, or are we multiplying the same number over and over and over again? I'm going to give you about 8 seconds to think about that. Number one, now I'm going to call somebody. Is that an arithmetic sequence, or is that a geometric sequence? Are you adding over and over again, or are you multiplying over and over and over again? And my random number generator is giving me table number 9. So somebody at table, oh, I guess that's just you, ma'am. Are we adding? It's a 9, see? Oh, what? Okay, so are we adding the same number over and over, or are we multiplying the same number? We are adding the same number over and over again. So that means it's going to be arithmetic. I'm going to write myself a little note out to the side there that it's arithmetic. What number are we adding over and over? Yeah, and we're adding -2. So I'm going to kind of write myself a note out to the side that it's arithmetic, and that my difference, my common difference, is a -2. So I'm going to jog your memory a little bit, remind you what the explicit formula is for an arithmetic sequence, okay? Remember, it goes like this. First of all, it starts with an A because it's an arithmetic sequence.
A equals something.
So A sub n. What number? It's the term number I'm looking for. A sub n is equal to. It always starts. Oh, you're close. You're ahead of me a little bit. The first one. Parentheses. We got n minus 1. And what am I? You said that part right. And what am I going to multiply n minus 1 by? -2. Or in other words, the common difference, right? So remember, just the general formula is what I just gave you here. To find any number in the term or in the sequence, which is why it's a sub n. This is a lot of numbers to not numbers, those are variables. There's a lot of letters to remember here, but at least they make sense. It's a sub n because it's an arithmetic sequence. The n stands for what number am I trying to find in the sequence. You always start with the first term. That's why it's a sub 1. And then you got to add the difference. And then you're going to add that difference however many times, but of course -1. So let's make sure. So I'm going to fill in the blanks here. A sub n just stays the same as a sub n. They're always just a sub n. What is a sub 1 in this case? -2, because that's the first term in my sequence. That plus is still just part of the formula.
-2.
What is my common? Yeah, in this case, my a sub 1 and my common difference happen to be the same number. So I know that, don't let that confuse you. So -2 times n minus 1. So really, all you got to know, the formula is the same over and over and over again. The only thing that you have to actually identify and sub in there is the first term in the sequence and the common difference. So that is all we need to do right there for the explicit formula. I'm going to skip number 2 for a minute, and I'm going to go to number 3. because I want to do one arithmetic and one geometric to remind you. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that number 3 is a geometric sequence. Because what is the common ratio? What's the number that I'm multiplying by? Over, is it a 3? You're close. It is 3, but it's a negative 3. Because look how the sign's changing every single time. So you're not just multiplying by 3, you're actually multiplying by a negative 3. That's how it flip-flops the sign over and over and over again. You notice that? So G, and our common ratio is a negative 3, which I'm going to kind of write out to the side there. So now my explicit formula is not an A sub n anymore. It's a G sub n. Stands for geometric, but it's still a sub n. Still the first term in my sequence. What's the first term in my sequence? Okay, now I'm going to write just the regular old formula first, so hang on one second. So my first term. Now, am I going to add? I'm going to multiply. So I got a little dot, because we don't use that little baby multiplication symbol X anymore. We're in algebra. We don't want to confuse multiplication with an X. And of course, instead of a common difference, it's a common ratio. So we're going to use the letter R. And instead of a big n minus 1, it's going to be an exponent. So it's going to be a...
What's the dot for?
The dot means multiplication, because we're doing geometric. So remember, you multiply the same number every time. So our explicit formula for a geometric, remember that the n minus 1 is an exponent, because an exponent tells you how many times you multiply the same number over and over and over again. We know that an exponent represents that. That's why we're not multiplying by n minus 1. That exponent is going to tell us how many times do I multiply the common ratio over and over again. So now we got to do is fill in the blanks. G sub n is simply a G sub n.
Uno.
Yep. I'm going to replace that G sub 1 with a 1. That multiplication is just part of the formula that is always there. My common ratio is a negative 3.
And then the n equals thing with G.
And then the negative 3 is going to be raised to the n minus 1 power. So let's say I want the 30th term in the sequence. I'm going to raise it to the 29th power, because you always multiply one less than the term you're looking for. So I'm going to leave you guys to figure out the rest of this side. Are getting held up with the same problem. So rather than go around and bless you, rather than go around and answer the same question over and over again, I'm just going to address it with everybody. Okay? So we're going to look. Numbers 4 and number 6 have both been giving us some problems. Okay? I'm going to do number 6 because number 6 is the same concept as number 4, but it's harder. So I'm going to do the harder one for you so that you guys can go back and reevaluate your number 4 if you need to. So what do we notice? So if you don't notice the pattern, okay, and I know we see fractions and we're like, Mayday, I don't know what to do now. Now I don't know what to do. Okay? So sometimes that freaks us out a little bit. The first thing I would do is I would say, let's see if this is arithmetic. Okay, so I could do negative 3. Am I adding the same number over and over and over again to get from one number to the other? Like to go from 9 to negative 3. Okay, put negative 3 minus 9 in your calculator and see what you had to go down to get there. So that's negative 12. So now do 1 minus negative 3 and see if you get the same difference again. Nope. Okay, so it's not arithmetic. We're not adding the same number over and over and over again. So I've already gone ahead and tell you they're all either arithmetic or geometric in this case. So that means if it's not arithmetic, it's going to be geometric. Okay, for this particular worksheet today, they're all either arithmetic or geometric. So it's geometric. From 9 to 3, what can you multiply? Because I know a lot of us are like, well, okay, but to get from 9 to 3, you can't multiply anything because it's going down. I need to divide. Okay, I don't want that to confuse you because yes, 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, so it does involve division. But something that maybe we didn't necessarily get that your teacher should have taught you in 5th grade, but I know sometimes that kind of gets away. If you divide by 3, that means the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. Because when you are multiplying by a fraction, you're actually making it smaller. So because it's a geometric sequence and we can't use division, your common ratio is actually going to be multiplying by 1/3. It's just like the one up here where 24, 12, 6, you're dividing it by 2 every time. The common ratio is multiplying by 1/2. Because to turn it into a smaller number by division, you multiply by a fraction. So for this one, number 6, your common ratio is 1/3. So if I take and it's not just a 1/3, it's a negative 1/3 because that sign keeps flipping, right? From positive to negative, back to positive again. So if I'm going to write this as an explicit formula, so of course G sub n is equal to your first G times your common ratio times n minus 1. So if I fill in the blanks, my G sub 1 is 9.
That's 1/3.
Multiplied by negative 1/3. I should actually put this in a different color so it's a little easier for you to see. Sorry, guys. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because if you multiply 9 times negative 3, does that give you the right answer?
It's 3.
Okay, so remember when it's a geometric sequence. Okay, when it's a geometric sequence, you can't put division because the formula is multiplication. So the way you take care of dividing something by 3 is you actually multiply it by 1/3. When you multiply by a fraction, it makes it smaller. What if you're dividing by 4 every time? What would the common ratio be? Instead of dividing by 4, what would you write? Multiply by 1/4. Exactly. Okay, so you cannot write it as a division. You got to take that and turn it into a fraction. So that's why our common ratio is actually a negative 1/3. Does that answer your question, ma'am? Okay. And to the n minus 1 power. So it'll be G sub n. It's negative 1/3. Oh, we're just, because you did division, ma'am, not multiplication.
I did both of them.
We are going to solve for a particular term in the sequence, but for today, all we're doing is writing the formula. So number 6 was the trickier version. Number 4 and number 6 are very similar. So I think after doing number 6, you should be able to figure out number 4 because it's kind of the same.
She didn't answer it.
And the table. Okay, you said A. How do you know that it's A?
I don't know. I just guessed.
Yeah, because we're adding 4 every time, right? So that means it's arithmetic, and that means that the common difference is a 4.
Plus 4.
Number 2, okay, it's geometric. Yes, ma'am. What is the common difference? What is it? We're multiplying by 4 every time. Yes, ma'am. Tell me what the next one is.
Is arithmetic?
Yes.
And it's minus 3.
It's arithmetic because we're subtracting 3 every time. Okay, and what is happening with this one, guys? It's geometric because you're multiplying by 2.
Geo.
And then geo, negative 3. Okay, so I'm going to do actually, because that bell's getting ready to catch us, I'm gonna see what you did for these last few. I'm going to go ahead and take this from you.